All right, and here we are with Evan Derrick, the Vice President and Creative Director for Van Ryder Games. How you doing today, Evan?
Good, man. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. All right, we're gonna jump right in. Bird's eye view. What is Van Ryder Games?
I assume everybody knows that we make board games, so I don't need to start that
I mean, you
broad.
don't need to. Yeah, you don't necessarily need to go that high. Bring it down just a little bit. So we know you make games, but what
Yes.
kind of games do you guys make?
Van Ryder games, honestly, we really specialize in creating really thematic, immersive narrative experiences. So our games, you know, there's like a lot of Euro games in the space in our hobby space, and the kinds of games we tend to make are not like that. Euro games
Yeah.
have like lots of different ways to get points. They're kind of themeless. You could be, farming in the Middle Ages or on Mars or whatever, and it kind of all works. We connect our mechanics to the theme as tightly as possible, and so they're very interwoven. It would be very difficult to retheme our games. So we really specialize in games like that create kind of a story for the players.
Absolutely. Okay. We'll get into that a little bit more, but before we do, can you give me like a brief history of the company? Like how did it all come to be?
Yeah, Van Ryder was started by my partner AJ Porfirio in 2010, 2011, something like that, somewhere around there. And it was a very small operation. It was just him, and that was when Kickstarter was in its infancy, and so he began kickstarting some of his games. And he did a zombie game called Are You Going Down? And it was a solo game. And then he had a game that he launched on Kickstarter called Hostage Negotiator, which was also a solo game about being a
Ooh.
hostage negotiator. Right up there. Yep. Look at that.
Boom.
Um,
Didn't even
Product
plant
placement.
that too. I didn't even plant
I
that.
don't even believe you.
You watch previous videos. It's there. It's up there. So
Um, so Hostage Negotiator was a pretty big hit. I think AJ initially raised like $10,000, but this was back in like 2012, 2013. So that was like that was a really big deal
yeah.
for Kickstarter back then. And so AJ kept doing that for a few years, and then I moved into the area and was looking for a game group, and managed to hook up with him and his friends, and started going to the game group. But I was also a game designer, so I had a game called Dark Moon published by Stronghold Games, and so connected with AJ. And I was not very happy in my current job at the time, and so I picked AJ's brain, and I was like, what, like, I just want to, maybe I'd like to start my own board game company, because I don't like what I'm doing. And AJ's response was, well, instead of that, what if you just joined me? And so I showed him a design that I'd been holding on to for a while. I didn't want to publish it with a publisher. I wanted to publish it myself,
Yeah.
called Detective City of Angels. And AJ fell in love with it. And we kind of did a trial run for 6 months, just him and I, seeing if we worked well together. And after that, I officially joined the company.
That's
And
fantastic.
then he and I worked two full-time jobs for 3 years, um, both of our day jobs, to provide for our family, while also working on building Van Ryder to a place where we could quit our jobs and do it full time.
Yeah.
And we started doing that around 6 years ago, so 2018,
Oh wow. All right.
2017. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so you were designing games before you even started with Van Ryder. I
Uh-huh.
gotta ask, what was the game that got you, Evan Derrick, into games? Like what
Into
was the game that
designing
caused
games.
or to playing games, just like interested in because let's face it, board games aren't for everyone. We can all realize that there's a lot of normal people out there that are like, board games, maybe a party game, but not. But for us who enjoy playing these games, there's usually something early on that kind of solidifies it. So, was there a game early on that just made the bug bite you?
Well, when I was a kid, I was given a copy of Axis and Allies, right when I was
Ooh.
around 10 or 11. And I have memories of setting the whole thing up and just staring at it, wishing I had someone to play it with me. Or I'd get my younger brother to play with me, and then I would inevitably crush him into the dust, and he would never want to play with me again. I didn't understand at that point that as my only gaming partner,
You might want to.
gaming partner, I might want to not destroy his hopes and dreams every time he sat down to the complicated 3-4 hour game. I did not learn that lesson. So yeah, but I had Axis and Allies. I had a game called Buck Rogers
A
in
Buck
the
Rogers
20th
game.
century, which it's a TSR made it.
Oh, really?
I've been looking for a copy off and on for years. It's a giant board with dudes on a map. It's got all plastic pieces and stuff. I had that game, so I think those games got me into it. And then I took a hiatus through college when in high school when I got into video games,
Of course. I
and
mean,
then probably what I rediscovered the hobby. I was reading Penny Arcade,
yeah.
the old web comic, and they would always reference board games.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Mike, no, not Mike, Gabe, the one who would write the comic, he would always have like a little post or something that would go with the comic talking about whatever geeky thing he was into. And he was into Fury of Dracula, and there was a link in the post that kicked me over to Board Game Geek, and that is where it all ended or began, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Once I found Board Game Geek, it was all over.
All bets were off. All bets were off
Yep.
then. Yeah. I love it. I love it. You said earlier that very cinematic.
Uh-huh.
One thing that I enjoy as a pushing 40-year-old with 3 kids is that you found a way that people could play games by themselves.
Hmm.
The solo game aspect of, I believe, Hostage Negotiator is
Yep.
solo, and especially near and dear to my filmmaker heart. We got the Final Girl games.
Yep.
So much fun to play solo. Or, I mean, my wife and I have actually played Final Girl together. Like we just decided together what the moves we would
Hmm.
make would be. Um, is there can you speak on that at all on solo gaming or more specifically Final Girl? Have you worked on the Final Girl games?
Yeah, I'm one of the designers. AJ and
That's
I
what
co-designed Final Girl. So
that's what I thought. Because I believe I just made a video about Into the Void with
mhm.
Alien Romulus came out, and I just got the itch, and I finally sat down and busted it out. How what's the process for these games? That's what I'm really curious about right now is the Final Girl games. What's the process for coming up with the games, coming up with the mechanics? Because each movie is different. The
Right.
villains add a completely different element to it.
I mean it. So you asked earlier about solo gaming and why
Yeah.
that's a big deal, and I think a large part of it is because we're in front of screens so much. Oftentimes, we sit in front of our computers, we're on our phones. I mean, even video games. Sometimes it's kind of like, oh gosh, I don't want to look at another screen again. And so there's something really meaningful about just actually pushing pieces around and like touching them and picking them up and having that kind of experience. And so I think that's one of the reasons why solo gaming has become really popular, and Final Girl has managed to tap into that.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially especially around when the pandemic happened and you saw the
Yeah.
sales of like puzzles in games shoot through the roof because everybody was just stuck at home.
Yeah.
So, but the process for Final Girl, like creating it, it was built off of Hostage Negotiator, which was AJ's design. So
Yeah.
we wanted to take a proven design that had worked well and been very successful for us, and port it to a different theme or whatever. And so I did the initial work of transporting it to kind of a horror theme. We created a map. Hostage Negotiator doesn't have a map. Final Girl has a map, pieces you can move around and stuff, and started trying to just map Final Girl or Hostage Negotiator mechanics over to Final Girl, and then throwing out the stuff that didn't work and adding other things that did work. But honestly, how the genesis of how it built, it's AJ and I worked on it together, and it's difficult to point out what was me and what was him.
Sure.
A lot of times, I'm like, now how did we make this? I don't remember who. It's kind of this blur of us working together and figuring out what worked and what didn't until we ended up with what it was.
Yeah.
Now, the process for creating, now that we've established the system, and we've got that all down, AJ and I can basically whip out a feature film in like a day or two, just because we know it really well. And then we push it over to our playtesting team, and we have a really, really great playtesting team who's played the game thousands of times, so many more times than even I've played it. And so we're always looking for themes. Obviously, we draw a lot of inspiration from horror movies, clearly. Yeah. But we're looking for themes that, for example, like can be represented well in the mechanics in an interesting way.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, people will say, "Oh, you need to do a Michael Myers one," and it's like, well, Michael Myers is essentially the same as Jason Voorhees.
Who's Hans?
They just have a mask and walk around slowly and kill people. Like there's nothing other than the look.
The slow and steady stalker. Yeah, the slow and steady stalker type. Once you've done one, you've done a bunch. In fact, last Halloween, I did a little Let's Play of I used Hans, but I did it in the on Maple Lane.
Yeah.
To recreate Halloween.
Yeah.
Basically. And then I played with Laurie, the Laurie character.
Uh-huh.
And that's okay. So that's one thing that I really am curious about. How did you guys come up with the idea to make it modular?
So Hostage Negotiator is modular.
Okay.
The abductors, when you play Hostage Negotiator, you play against a different abductor, and the way that the game expands is you buy new bad guys.
Yeah.
So you've got your core set of cards, and you're like, well, I want to play a different bad guy. So that was initially baked into the idea for Final Girl, is that, well, we want you to play different killers. And then we just matched it to the location. And then we were like, well, why wouldn't we be able to like swap up the killers and the locations? Because that's very horror movie-esque.
Yeah,
you've got
absolutely.
Jason at the camp. You got Jason Goes to New York. You've got Jason Goes to Hell. You've got Jason Goes to Space. Like literally.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
just how
Jason X, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to play with Hans in the USS Conrad, because boom, that's Jason X right there.
So it already worked, and it's goofy. Like you can play the organism, which is like it's on the Arctic base or whatever that mutates. Like you can play the organism at the carnival, and it's like that doesn't, there's not like a horror movie that exists like that, but it's not easy to like, well, of course there would be. Why not do the thing at a carnival? So the modular, how the box works, we'd always intended it to be killer and location, and you could mix and match. But the box design and the box setup, that was AJ. I do remember that was AJ's idea.
Yeah.
Because getting the magnets to work in production was a nightmare. Because we wanted to, because we didn't we didn't want the players to get the game. You have to transport the thing.
Yeah.
And if you just shake it, the cover would fall apart. For people who aren't familiar with Final Girl, the box has a double-sided magnetic, and they become the boards. And
Yeah.
It's not just one side, it's both sides.
It's both sides.
Which is super cool. But
awesome. Really cool.
But from a production standpoint, it was a nightmare getting the magnets to work, because the magnets had to be strong enough where the thing wouldn't just fall apart and everything come out. And I remember during production, AJ going, "Have I doomed this project?" because it was so difficult to get them correct, to get them right.
Yeah.
That he was like personally taking responsibility for having come up with the idea in the first place, and now it's one of the game's
now it's
biggest
one of the
selling
few
points.
Things that you can point the finger at and be like, "That was him. That was him."
Yes,
for better or worse.
Was him. Yep.
That's great. And I gotta say, I adore the boxes. I think the way that you guys ended up landing on them, where both sides come off and one side's the location, the other side's the killer. I think it's brilliant. And it sits on your shelf so nicely with all the other Final Girls. Everything looks clean and put together, and and it's not too big too. Like, you can stuff several of these. They're like maybe slightly bigger, double the size of a VHS, which I think is kind of fun, because it harkens back to, those old horror movies you'd watch on VHS. It's great. Okay, so what else are you what are you guys working on now? We've been talking a lot about Final Girl, because it's a very near and dear one to me. I thoroughly enjoy it ever since I first met AJ 3 Gen Cons ago. And I got to talk with them, and I saw the lines, long lines, every morning outside the booth, and I was just like, I gotta try that Final Girl game. Everyone's talking about it, and so. But yeah, so what else are you guys working on right now?
I mean, we're going to print right now with Final Girl Series 3. So so that'll be. We've gotten all of that done. The files are with the printer, and we're expecting our first production copy soon. So that's currently in the mix.
Have we announced what movies they'll be?
Yeah, we ran the Kickstarter. So one is called The Tormentor, and it's in a warehouse, and the Tormentor likes to trap victims in elaborate traps.
I love it.
One is called The Eyeless, and it takes place in a desert, like Utopia. Is the name of the desert, and the Eyeless operates only off of sound. Can't hear anything or can't see anything. So it's
okay.
Sound. And the location is in the desert, and there are these sand snakes that also will react to sound and come and get you. Let's see. There's the Hunter, who is a assassin from the future, who is attempting to kill the Savior,
of course,
a petulant teenage boy running around a shopping mall who doesn't want to do what he's told and throws himself into danger at every chance he gets. We've got Razorface.
These are I love these, man. I love how you guys are just so careful to just tiptoe around, but you're getting all the elements that you need, but you're not, you're able
Strong
to
homage.
Yeah, exactly. Homages to these classic, because they are classics, but making it an homage allows you guys to add elements that weren't in anything original. You can change whatever you want to change, because, let's face it, not all of them stand up 30, 40 years later. Some of them don't quite hold up as well as they used to. And I love that you guys are able to capture the essences of all these memorable experiences, and turn them into playable games, and each one with the villains and the locations having their own separate rules and mechanics, uh, makes every playthrough completely different. Like I was used to playing the Hans one, and then I thought, oh well, I want to try playing with Dr. Fright, and suddenly it was just like, okay, whoa, hold on, this is a completely different game.
Right.
And
The
so,
system is thankfully pretty versatile.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
you'd like to think that we intended it that way, but some of that's just luck. Over time, where it's just like, oh wow, this is really flexible. We could do a lot of stuff with this. Um,
Well,
and
listen, they don't need to know that. This was all planned. This is all planned from the
all
day
planned,
one. Day
master
one.
plan. No luck involved at all.
Yeah,
I think one of the
exactly.
reasons why what you talked earlier about the kind of games we make. I think one of the reasons why these games are popular with our fans is that we really do love the source material that inspires them, and I think that love of that comes through. I mean, we are giant horror movie fans. I mean, if you want to talk about like cinephile knowledge or movie knowledge, like it'll be hard to find someone who can go toe to toe with me just on the amount of movies I've watched and what I know about all of them. So we really do inject our love of the source material into what we make, and I think that's one of the reasons why Final Girl has been so successful, is because that people find it who also love horror movies, and they just get it right away because it's all there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it shows. It show the love that you have for these classic films and epic films, and sometimes really, really bad films,
Yeah.
shows in each and every one of them. Like you can see where the love is. You can see that you guys care about it, and you are going to do your best to pay tribute to them where you can. And like I said, it shows. It's you're doing a good job at it, I would say.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We've been chatting a lot about Final Girl and everything, but there are a couple things I'd like to know. You've been around with the company since 2017. What are you most proud of in those 7, 8 years that you've been there?
I mean, honestly, I'm most proud of the team that we built. The people we have here working for us, Byron, who you've met, and there's a whole host of other people. We're getting ready to add our eighth person, I believe. And
Wow.
so, honestly, I'm most proud of the team and the environment we built. In terms of the games we've made, I mean, I am very proud of Final Girl. But me personally, I'm probably most proud of our detective game, Detective City of Angels,
Yeah.
which is, and it takes a team to make it, but it was my baby, and it, for better or worse, it is exactly what I wanted it to be. I oversaw almost every single piece of the process, from the design to the writing, to the development to the art. So, in terms of like, if there's anything wrong with that game, the only person who's responsible for it is me. But I am that one. That one took 6 years to make, and I wrote 170,000 words for it, something like that.
Whew.
So that probably is the product I am most proud of creating. Although it's interesting, I don't ever want to play it. I hate playing it. I would rather play Final Girl. I actually will sit down and just play Final Girl by myself because I like
Yeah.
that. Detective, not so much. But the part of that's just the nature of the game and what it is. But I'm most
Sure,
proud of
sure.
that.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Um, all right. Well, like I said, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I'm gonna close it out on what's the future of Van Ryder look like?
Oh, I mean, we have so I honestly, it's just fantastic. We've got so many great ideas, so many things. It sounds so. I say that I'm like, and I can't go into specifics,
Of
And it
course.
sounds so vague in general, but I am like unbelievably thrilled at what we have, what we're going to create in the future, and the possibilities of what we have to make. So uh, I'm absolutely so excited about it, even though, again, it's all vague, and anybody listening to this will be like, yeah, whatever, okay. Everybody says that. Every person who runs the company says, are you excited about the future? Oh man, it's so bright. You know, the future's so bright. I've
So
got to
bright, I
wear
gotta wear
shades.
shades. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But it really is. We've got a lot of really, really exciting stuff coming. So
That's fantastic. That's exciting to hear. I have been a big fan of the company ever since I first heard of you guys, and I'm excited to see what comes with season 3, season 4 through 7 of Final Girl. I'm excited to see what else you guys put out. And you guys have a lot of fun little party games, so I'm excited to see what your lineup's going to look like. And Keepers. I mean, shout out to Byron. Keepers is great too.
yeah,
Keepers is a lot of fun.
wonderful.
Well, Evan, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Joe. I enjoyed being here.
Hey, did you like that video? Why not run down there and give it a little like? Or write in the comments what you liked about it. Better yet, you could hit this button right here to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all our fun videos. Speaking of those fun videos, you can click right here to watch some of them, huh? And if you're watching this on your phone and I'm just kind of doing this and there's no buttons over there, just use your imagination. Okay, bye, love you!